Imagine a world where your very attire dictated your destiny, where a single thread could elevate or condemn you. Welcome to the complex and often unforgiving landscape of medieval Europe, an era shrouded not only in the mists of time, but also in rigid social structures, meticulously enforced through what history calls sumptuary laws. Here, the fabric one wore, the colors one chose, and the very cut of a garment were far more than mere statements of fashion. They were declarations of identity, indelible markers of one's place within an unyielding social order. But were these regulations, these decrees of forbidden cloth, merely about curbing extravagance or protecting local industries, as they were often portrayed? Or did they serve a far deeper, more insidious purpose in controlling society, a purpose woven into the very fabric of power itself? These are the secrets that lie under the dust of centuries, the hidden narratives we at Echoes of Time endeavor to reveal. For centuries, from the burgeoning city-states of Italy, where new wealth challenged old hierarchies, to the feudal kingdoms of England and France, where noble birth often outweighed all else, these decrees dictated who could wear what, when, and where. They formed an intricate tapestry of legal constraints touching every stratum of society. A peasant, bound to the land and tradition, dared not dream of adorning themselves with the luxurious silks that shimmered through noble halls. Their station was visible, undeniable, etched into the rough weave of their humble garments. Meanwhile, a merchant, accumulating wealth through burgeoning trade, might aspire to wear the velvets typically reserved for the nobility, a sartorial ambition that sumptuary laws sought to quash. And for commoners, to don the vibrant, regal hue of purple was an unthinkable transgression, a color strictly reserved for royalty, a visible testament to their divine right and supreme authority. These laws, seemingly concerned with material goods, were in truth a systematic mechanism for social engineering, a genius in their subtle yet profound impact. They moved beyond merely preventing excessive spending. They were about creating visible, undeniable markers of status, designed with precision to prevent social mobility and reinforce the perceived natural order. The message was clear, emblazoned on every forbidden cloth: dare not dress above your station. Rulers and religious authorities leveraged this silent language of clothing, of fabrics, and even of specific colors to maintain an iron grip on the social hierarchy, ensuring that the boundaries between classes remained not just understood, but explicitly seen in every street and every gathering. The pervasive nature of sumptuary laws across such diverse regions of medieval Europe speaks volumes about their perceived importance. They were not isolated incidents of puritanical fervor or economic protectionism. They were a widespread and enduring feature of medieval governance. The very act of legislation, repeatedly issued and refined over generations, underscores the constant struggle to maintain order in societies grappling with evolving economic realities, burgeoning populations, and the ever-present human desire for advancement. The threat of social chaos, or at least perceived disorder, was potent enough to warrant such pervasive control over personal appearance. What seems to modern eyes an arbitrary interference in personal liberty was to medieval authorities a crucial tool in societal stability, a means of preventing the blurring of lines that they believed held society together. Yet the true motivations behind these forbidden cloths remain a subject of fervent academic debate, a complex enigma that challenges historians to peel back the layers of centuries of legislation and societal norms. Was this intricate system of control a singular response to a single problem, or a multifaceted solution to a confluence of anxieties? Three primary perspectives emerge, each offering a compelling lens through which to decode the silent language of medieval attire. One powerful argument posits that sumptuary laws were primarily economic instruments. In an era before sophisticated financial regulations and widespread banking, wealth was often tied to tangible assets and visible displays. Some historians contend that these laws were crucial for safeguarding wealth, particularly among the burgeoning merchant class, whose new fortunes could be as quickly lost as they were gained. The concern was not just about individual solvency, but about the broader economic stability of the realm. If merchants, aspiring to imitate the nobility, squandered their resources on ephemeral trends, on silks and velvets, on gold embroidery and precious jewels, it could lead to widespread insolvency, disrupting trade and destabilizing the very foundations of urban prosperity. By setting legal limits on expenditure, these laws aim to ensure that resources were managed prudently, preventing economic ruin and maintaining a healthy, productive economy. They were, in essence, an early form of fiscal policy, albeit one enacted through the rather unconventional means of sartorial control. A second perspective contends that the essence of sumptuary laws was deeply moral, a reflection of profound religious anxieties about vanity and sin. Medieval Europe was an age profoundly shaped by Christian doctrine, where the Church held immense sway over daily life and moral conduct. Decadent displays of wealth, particularly through extravagant clothing, were often viewed as expressions of pride, a cardinal sin. Such ostentation was seen as a distraction from spiritual devotion, a worldly indulgence that could lead souls astray. From this viewpoint, sumptuary laws were an attempt by both secular and religious authorities to rein in what was seen as decadent displays, to encourage humility, and to uphold a perceived moral order. They sought to combat the temptation of luxury and to remind individuals of their place, not just within society, but within the divine cosmic order. The very act of enforcing simplicity, or at least appropriate modesty, through dress, was a way of enforcing moral rectitude, reflecting a widespread belief that outward appearance was an indicator of inner virtue or depravity. The third perspective argues that these laws were powerful political instruments, meticulously designed to quell social unrest and consolidate power within the elite. As societies evolved, particularly with the growth of urban centers and the rise of a wealthy merchant class, the traditional feudal order faced new pressures. The visual distinctions between classes, once clear-cut, began to blur as commoners acquired wealth that allowed them to emulate the nobility's appearance. This blurring of lines was perceived as a direct threat to the established power structure. By visibly delineating class boundaries through clothing, sumptuary laws served to reinforce the existing hierarchy, preventing ambitious individuals from dressing above their station and thereby challenging the perceived natural order. They were a means of preventing aspirations from becoming unrest, of maintaining social cohesion by ensuring everyone knew their place. In this context, the laws were not merely about fashion or finance, but about the very stability of the state, a way to prevent the perceived erosion of authority and the potential for rebellion by clearly demarcating who held power and who did not. As historians and scholars today endeavor to decode this silent language of medieval attire, they delve into court records, legislative documents, and surviving fashion artifacts, seeking to understand the interplay of these complex motivations. Was it a confluence of all three, economic necessity, moral conviction, and political expediency, that drove the proliferation and enforcement of sumptuary laws? Or was it a more meticulously orchestrated system of control, artfully veiled under the guise of morality and economics to achieve purely political ends? The precise balance and emphasis shifted across regions and centuries, making a definitive, singular answer elusive. What is clear, however, is that these laws represent far more than antiquated fashion dictates. This isn't just about historical fashion. It's about the enduring nature of power, the subtle and overt mechanisms of control, and the relentless human quest for status in a world often defined by unspoken rules. The forbidden cloth of medieval Europe offers us a window into the core anxieties and priorities of a distant age, reminding us how deeply ingrained notions of hierarchy and order were, and how ingeniously they were upheld. It compels us to consider the echoes of these historical systems in our own time, prompting us to reflect on how our own societies, perhaps more subtly, still define and categorize us, influencing our perception of ourselves and our place within the grand human tapestry. What silent sartorial rules, what invisible threads still dictate our destiny today?